Council of Aging Board meeting, December 10th. This meeting will be held in person at the location provided on this notice, which is 18 Pond Street at the rear. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom meeting ID number 375-414-6055 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Kylie Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager, at ATM@ayer.mass.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100 prior to the meeting. Do I have a motion to call the meeting to order?
Second.
Okay. It is called to order at 2:09. Approval amend the agenda.
Second.
Approved. Okay. The ramp.
Just a reminder, if you're taking a
Oh, I
motion to
have to
approve it, you
take,
gotta do
okay,
the
I
roll
gotta
call.
go around, I'm sorry. Okay, to approve the agenda. Sheriff?
I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Oh, Bob did that and Dennis seconded.
Oh, I couldn't hear. All right, I agree.
Okay, Bob,
So moved.
and you vote yes.
Yeah.
Dennis?
Aye.
And, the motion, vote is unanimous. Okay. The ramp at Pleasant Street Park. What do we want to do next with it? I've not had any feedback.
So a letter was mailed.
A
to him?
letter was mailed.
Okay,
So, and he was invited to last month's
Yes.
meeting and did not show.
No,
would you like me to run upstairs again like I did last time and see if he's
I
available?
don't think.
Oh, yeah.
we do anything.
No, I think he could do that. Yeah, that'd be helpful.
But I don't.
It may not yield anything, but I'll at least
Right.
go up and ask.
Yeah, I think.
I just. In the year or two, year and a half, I've been. Talks to me. But he doesn't.
No, I've never think I've formally met him. I don't think I've seen him. I
And
don't think, but I wouldn't recognize him.
you would.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
this a ramp into the senior center itself?
No, it's a ramp at the park on Pleasant Street. It's next to the Pleasant Street housing. They have a beautiful park. And we do a cookout there once a year, but the problem is that wheelchairs can't get up.
Mhm.
So just, so when the Pleasant Street School was converted to the Pleasant Street Apartments,
Right.
they constructed it in compliance with what they understood to be the ADA requirements at that
Right.
time.
Right.
recently, it came to our notice that it was inconvenient or just generally difficult for people in wheelchairs, walkers to access the park from the building itself. And we were looking for a way to make it more handicap accessible, handicap friendly by having some sort of ramp created between the parking lot and the park area.
Sure.
We,
I'm sorry.
so we went, there was some back and forth between the town and the housing authority. It seems to be the case that the purview and the funding and the authority for doing those kinds of things lies with the housing authority. And we were in conjunction with the Disabilities Commission looking for a path forward to see what needed to happen to make that occur. So that's kind of where this thing sits right now.
Okay. Well, I would endorse the advocacy of the council. I mean, as a person that lives in a wheelchair, it would be inaccessible to me if I were able, to get there. So I would endorse the advocacy of this group.
So Ken, come join us.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good to see you.
I understand I was sent an email. I have not seen it.
Oh, and I mailed a letter.
I have not seen
Are
it.
you kidding?
No,
Oh, I sent it to you at Hosey.
I have not seen it. So
Wow.
I may be unprepared, but I'm expecting a phone call I have to take very shortly.
Okay.
But I did come down.
Nope, I mailed it to the housing authority.
I have
In your
not,
name, I'm sorry.
I have not seen it.
Yeah.
So
If
what,
my mail is any indication, then I'm not surprised you won't get yours, because I often don't get mine.
Yeah.
so what can I do? Or what can I explain to you? Or what would you like?
No, we have been working for a couple of years trying to get at Pleasant Street Park a ramp,
Okay,
a little, so we can get wheelchairs and walkers.
Okay, and did you receive a letter from the Disabilities Commission maybe 6 months ago, 8 months ago?
I did receive something from the town because I had met on site with the building inspector, and DPW director, to try and see if there was a way of doing this, because it was a request to do this. And the building inspector referred back to the original plan. When the original plan, it's handicap accessible based on what they have right now. And the reason that they didn't pave an area between the two is that they were afraid that if anybody was coming there, the cars would back up and it would create an unsafe situation where they may not see the person. So therefore, they would not allow us to do that.
When you say there.
The town, the town would not. So we said to the town, we're not opposed to having that. There's been a request to do that. If the town would like to do that, we're open to that suggestion, but they're not willing to entertain that.
Okay, so, and so is it the case that the house, that the park and the parking lot and the renovations to that area are under the authority of the housing authority and would be paid for by the housing authority?
So it really depends. When the park was created, that was from CPA money. That was not housing authority money. That was community preservation.
Oh,
So if this was a project of substantial value, to do this, then we could go to CPA and ask them for the funding. If we're talking just paving a 4-foot path and feathering it back and whatnot, if the town approved it, I think that the town DPW has the capacity to do that for very short money. But I'm not sure the DPW is willing to do that unless the building department or the building inspector who is the ADA coordinator, I believe. Unless he agrees to do that, but I don't want to speak for
But
them,
no,
that's just what they
But
told
that's
us.
what Dave Sabor,
I'm sorry.
is that Dave Sabor still
No.
ADA? No,
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've been told that the building inspector was the ADA person.
Okay.
That may have
So-
changed,
Okay.
maybe.
So it's your view that the housing authority does not control and would not fund renovations to the park and or
We
parking lot?
control it,
You
but
control
we
it.
do not have funds to make improvement. We just have enough funds to maintain what we have right now.
Okay.
And what would it take for you to acquire the funds necessary to make those improvements?
It depends on what the cost would be to do that. And because the town DPW director was the town engineer, and I'm sure he's certified as an engineer, he could design a very small sketch plan
Mhm.
to be able to do that, and then we could get prices, or DPW could do it at their cost, which would be much cheaper because they buy bituminous concrete, hot top at the state purchasing price,
Yep.
so it would be much cheaper for them to do that.
At least we have a direction to go.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not that I hate to put you on, and I did talk to Judy Penard,
Yeah,
who was on our board,
yeah,
who has partaken into the Council on Aging and did attend a lot of the senior functions. And she remembers because we were out there trying to do something with that, and they were very adamant about that when that was being designed, that we could not do that. Because we looked at that and we said that'd make a nice transition to go from the park instead of people going up and taking the longer way, which is handicap accessible and meets all the handicap ADA requirements. And at that time, they said, no.
but when you're being dropped off by a bus to go up to get dropped off, it's a long way. Right,
I don't disagree.
right.
I don't disagree.
But this at least gives another plan to who to go to.
So I guess I would suggest is going either to the town manager through, I don't know, the director, or I don't know, what's the best means to do that.
So just that you would understand it.
But excuse me, the town manager was involved a while back when we talked about this, because I know he did. I'm not gonna say he ordered, but he suggested, or he had the building inspector and DPW director meet us out there. So he's familiar with the process.
Sure, so it's my understanding, and Marge, and Katie, if you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's my understanding that the park and the parking lot and renovations and improvements to that area fall under the authority of the housing authority and would be paid for by the housing authority.
No,
So we control the site, we are responsible for the site,
Okay,
but any improvements. We are limited in terms of funding, and so we don't have the funds to make improvements.
so,
But we could seek funds, or the town could provide funds.
Right.
The town has done things for us in the past.
right,
Um,
so other than the town, what funds do you have access to that would allow for those improvements to occur?
we do not, we'd have to apply for a grant.
yeah, see, I'm understanding that you have the funds to maintain it. But CPA and DPW are where we should be going.
Yes,
Okay, that's what I'm understanding.
I have to take,
I,
I have to take.
thank you, but that's what I'm
I'll be
getting.
glad to come back if I can
No,
finish this.
that's what I'm getting.
Yes.
Okay, thank you,
Start with the town, because if they're gonna approve it, then we can talk about funding.
thank you,
Hello.
but that's what I'm getting.
Right, so, so. You know, that's the interplay, like it is a town park. It was funded
Right.
by the town. It's under the control of, just like this is town-owned
Mhm.
property. It is under the daily operational control of the state agency, the
Yep.
Air Housing Authority. So it's that kind of interplay where it gets very confusing, who controls what.
But I think we have a different direction to go in, because it's not housing, they can maintain it.
No, I
May I
understand.
make a suggestion?
Mhm.
Yeah,
If we get a denial letter from the housing authority, we can attach that denial of funding or refusal, then go to the town, and we have proof that the housing authority is saying that they can't control it, and therefore we are seeking general revenue from the taxpayers of the town of Ayer to amend this access so that we're ADA compliant because if the town is maintaining the park itself, they have
they
an
don't.
interest, they don't. Who
No,
maintains
the
the
time,
park?
I mean, it's my understanding that the housing authority pay, I mean, I live down the street, so I know. But
Yeah,
the housing, I believe it's a private contractor who is maintaining the park. And I believe they are being paid by the housing authority, not the town.
Right, yeah, let me clarify. So that piece of land is owned by the town.
Right, Thompson?
The park itself was funded by the town via community preservation funds. Once it was established, it is maintained by the housing authority. Yeah.
So, and when we first got into this, it was my understanding, and Marge, correct me if I'm wrong,
Mhm.
that Robert indicated that this was not something that the town ought to, should be, would be funding, but rather that the improvements to that, the accessibility for that fell under the purview of the housing authority.
Yes. So both entities are saying, go talk
To the
Together,
other.
one.
yes.
that's what I'm saying.
Is
If we get a denial letter from one, we can have it documented and on record that we pursued access through the housing authority and then seek direction from either the attorney for the town of Ayer or Mr. Pomprian.
So just to clarify, Cheryl, the park does meet ADA compliance for the year in which it was built. And it technically meets compliance now. It's not that it's not compliant. So I don't think there's any non-compliance argument. It's whether it is, unless you were going to say it's not reasonable accommodation, right? So you have to go down a sidewalk, up a multi-layer ramp, down about half a block, through another parking lot and into the building. So reasonable
It's
would
kind of like
probably.
the old Ayer High School before the renovations. Technically, it was ADA compliant, but it wasn't ADA compliant because it took me almost an hour and a half to get in to vote one night at a town meeting, which I never went back to. And now it is. Now it's fully accessible. So the letter of the law was met previously, but for all intents and purposes, you couldn't get
Right, and
in
it's not-
by yourself in a wheelchair without a lot of inconvenience.
And this is where the lack of an active and engaged disabilities commission is kind of difficult to navigate. It is my understanding that although this is technically, I guess, compliant, there is a lack of accessibility and improving of accessibility
Sure.
to that park. And numerous Ayer residents, some of whom live in Pleasant Street, have indicated that they would be more likely to use the park if they
They
could
could
gain
get
access.
to it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And.
Yeah.
So. For my purposes, for the Council on Aging. I see this as clearly something that falls within the. Advocacy realm of the Disabilities Commission first with our noted support.
Mhm.
Um,
Could we
And-
invite someone from the Disability Commission to this meeting to
They are-
present?
We don't have a disability commission.
They're
Oh, there you go.
there's no
Yeah,
there's no form there and there's no town employee who is kind of following that. So for I guess, to Cheryl's point, I think we need a written understanding from Robert and from Mr. Martin about what their respective views of this situation is, and or a meeting with Robert and Mr. Martin and some community members, both present, to discuss in detail how they see the process moving forward, if at all.
That would be a great suggestion. Having them come and sit and all parties at the table. So how can we resolve this? How can we?
And that the resolution be done in writing.
Exactly.
That is, we still do not have, and again, I think Ken kind of recounted what he remembered of receiving the.
Yeah.
And I have a distinct memory of Robert's explanation of where we stood in this regard. And, but I think we need both parties in writing. I do not see this as a task for the DPW or the building inspector unless and until we can get clarity on who's responsible for and
Consensus,
out of
yeah.
what budget would it come should such a thing occur.
And
No.
we're a year or 2 years later, but this is budget season. So we're at risk of running a whole nother year and a half to resolve this. Because however much money it is, whether it's $10,000 or $50,000 to fix it, whatever it is not going to be in somebody's budget in another 2 weeks when budgets are due.
Right,
Yeah,
but I'm not sure why CPAC money, couldn't be some of it too.
so CPC, if the COA board wanted to submit a CPC
Yeah.
application, they certainly could, like. The COA board could go to a CPC
Mhm.
meeting and
request,
just, and. Get sort of the verbal,
I mean,
you
if
know.
they can put in to redo town hall.
Right, but we do not. I don't know that we can do that unless we resolve the underlying issue. That is,
Yeah.
and the underlying issue is the lack of clarity between the town and the housing authority as to who's responsible
And
for.
he said they maintain it.
Right,
So
There-
we need,
He said. But, yeah,
no, he said they maintain it. He did not acknowledge, as I understood it, that they would be responsible for improving it.
no,
Or making it more accessible, or applying for grants that would allow that to happen. Or seeking additional federal funding, you know, by whatever mechanism they may have access to in order to have it happen. So that is, so,
yeah,
and I mean, I think that's kind of where we're at, so.
but I don't think a grant would happen because we don't have the grant writing.
No, it's not.
Right.
That is, it's if the housing authority sought to do that,
Mhm.
the housing authority could pursue that on their own.
yeah, they could just put it in their budget.
They are an entity separate
Right,
from the
I
town,
know,
so they wouldn't have access
but I did not get that from him today.
to that.
They would,
No, he did not seem enthused about the prospects of
Right.
applying for a grant.
and I got the impression they would just maintain.
Yes.
That's
Right.
all they want.
so what if, because I'm a big fan of
Mhm.
complex problems require complex solutions, so.
I'm a big fan.
Right,
Simplify, simplify, simplify.
so what if, in addition to asking for a meeting
Yeah,
between Robert and Ken, we also spoke to residents of Pleasant Street,
mhm.
Exactly.
right? And asked them to advocate as well.
Oh, yeah.
Could we have them sign a petition?
But it's also, I think, people from
From town?
here that use the park.
Oh, yeah,
Absolutely,
Because you've got
yeah,
I,
agree.
yes,
Agree.
and,
people on walkers, people,
Mhm.
and there are some people at Pleasant Street that I have I've forgotten their names now, that specifically said they would use the park if they could get to it without having to go up and over and down and
Right.
that. All right, so
So do you want me to put that letter out?
I think a letter to Robert and Ken,
Yeah,
asking them for either we invite them to next month's meeting or we ask them for convenient times separately.
mhm,
What do you think?
I think if it's at next month's meeting, it will be videoed and on the record.
But then we.
This is an
if they
open
can't-
meeting.
Right, but then if they can't make next month's meeting, where, if one or the other can't make that particular time, then it's deferred. And again, I'm not saying, I'm just trying to get two people in the same room at the same time.
the only item on the agenda.
I think we should get them at a meeting that's convenient for them.
Well, and there is benefit to asking two people to come to the table at a closed door meeting
Yes,
to
Mhm,
solution something.
Yep.
Can sometimes be more productive than feeling like,
mhm.
if you're in an open meeting, then, no idea is a bad idea,
Mhm.
except when people are watching, sometimes you're like, maybe that is a bad idea, but I won't say that.
Yeah.
So, it might just be an easier meeting.
so what if? Okay, so
When are your budgets due?
Budgets are due, I think, the 23rd
Of
December.
December.
So it's unfortunately not gonna get included in anybody's budget for this year. The CPC applications are due, they're taking them in January and February at the latest. So, but again, I think the steps to that are you have to have somebody. I don't think we cannot submit a CPC application. It has to either be the town or the housing authority, because those are the only two people that have control over that space. So, I think the meeting, you would ideally want it to be
He
in
might
the.
work with us for CPC. Ken?
Mhm. Yeah,
And CPC is Community Preservation Commission.
yeah, community
right.
preservation. Yeah.
Just gonna
so, and the Disabilities Commission,
It's devoted, and they.
well, there are still members of the, Dave
But they
Seibel
don't
was,
meet.
no, I understand.
Yeah.
Dave Seibel was the chairman, let's say.
Mhm.
So- What's Dave Seibel, perhaps you've seen him around town, he walks his son in the wheelchair,
Yeah, I know.
kind of tall, thin guy, very, very nice.
Yeah, David, he's blessed with that son.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, if you were to write a letter to Robert and Ken,
yeah,
CCing Dave Seibel, just by virtue of his being the last known chair of the Disabilities Commission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Asking for convenient times for Ken asking Ken and Robert for convenient times when they could meet to discuss
mhm,
ongoing concerns of lack of
Mhm.
accessibility, let's call it, for the park, for those who are mobility impaired. And I would put in a date by which you would like to hear back from them. Please let me know by such and such a date what would be convenient time for you to meet. And just see what we get.
mhm.
Because I think it is critical that somebody own this,
Yeah,
and whoever owns it would be the one to move forward with pursuing funding of it.
yeah,
And as things stand now, it seems to me that
don't know.
Ken doesn't really see it within his purview to own it.
Right,
And Robert has felt that the town is not in a position to do that, and that the housing authority should be the lead agency to have this accomplished.
Yeah.
And prior to meeting with the DPW or the building inspector, et cetera, that, the larger issue should be resolved.
Okay, so let's take a vote that we move forward with this. Anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah.
Madam Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we compose a letter, as Dennis just outlined, to both the Housing Authority and the, Department of Public Works,
No, oh, to the town manager's office. let's
Town
say.
Manager's office, to Mr. Pomprian's office, asking that they assist us in resolving this situation for which we are advocating.
With the CC to Kenny Martin.
Yeah, the CC, yeah. And do we have a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Well, Cheryl, how do you
I,
vote?
yes,
Bob, yeah,
Yeah,
Dennis,
uh,
and I vote yes. Okay.
thank you.
Do we have the date for the senior young senior meal? Is it confirmed up?
no, we haven't discussed it since our last meeting, I don't think.
I did make a phone call to Marco's on Main.
Mm,
And the delay is that they want a letter from the Council on Aging or the Senior Center, outlining in writing exactly what our budget is going to be and how many people we anticipate. I mean, she was very nice, but they have to go to the owner to talk about, if we decide to go with Marco's on Main, exactly the number that we anticipate. And I did not have the answer for her because it's still kind of new to me, in my mind, and I wanted to make sure that it was accurate and get some feedback from the board. This was about 2 weeks ago that I spoke with them. I told them that it would probably be sometime in mid-January on a weeknight so that we could attract commuters coming off the train on their way home from work. I didn't know if we had funding or how many people we anticipated, if it would be a cash bar or, buy your own beverage, and that we would provide appetizers, et cetera. But the other issue that I had is I don't know that Marco's is accessible.
it's a big step up.
It's,
Yeah, you couldn't get in there in a wheelchair. You couldn't get in. Yeah. So I didn't know if we wanted to reconsider Marco's and go with a place that is handicap accessible.
well, actually, I think there is a way to enter, Mark. If you enter from the back of the building in the small alleyway between the building and the parking lot, they do have a dining area out there during good weather, and I think there would be doors that would put you on ground level. But I don't know what the inside looks like.
You come through that back hallway, so when you park in the back parking lot, there's that ramp and it kind of bridges over the parking lot. And then you come into that back hallway where the bathrooms are that go in between all of the restaurants there.
Yeah.
I've never been in because it looks too daunting.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fine inside. But
She was very nice, but she said that she needed to have something on our stationery, indicating what our intent. She said she does a lot of, she has a lot of connections with the Council on Aging, the Senior Center. Do they provide lunches for you sometimes?
Yeah, we do a lot of work with them.
Yeah, she was very nice. So
are you still looking at the winter months? I know you're putting this in April.
Well,
to the town?
yes, it will be somewhere between late February and April.
February. I told her January. I was way off. So thank you for clarifying.
No, Marge was asking about when we're taking the building project to town meeting.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right, Cheryl. We had talked about January 21st was the date that we had talked about.
Right.
And that is also the only thing I would say about that night in particular is that the friends at their meeting that just preceded this one, are targeting that January 21st as a select board meeting night. So they're targeting going to the select board on that night to give them an
Okay.
update. So, that's, which we obviously didn't know last
Mhm.
month, and we don't know if that's going to actually happen or not. But if we were trying to do 5:30 for that second train, and then the select board starts at 6,
Yeah.
that's gonna cause a divide and conquer
Right.
situation.
So we can move to February if we needed. Or we could,
Well, I mean, what about just the next night,
oh, yeah,
or the night? January 20th is, I think, the holiday, right?
yes.
So,
The King served.
what about was there any magic to it being a Tuesday?
Mhm.
What if we did Wednesday, the 22nd?
Mhm. Yep. I mean, we had just talked about doing crock pots of soups and doing appetizers and.
Well,
Well,
no, we had kind of gone in two sets.
Yeah,
So did anybody from this board follow up with members of the Friends
about funding it? No?
about funding it? Cause see that, so I think that before we can go anywhere, like the COA board has no budget, right?
Right.
So, it either, if you want it to be if it's designed to be a 50+ mix and mingle about the building project, then,
Sounded like a dating app there for a
I kinda, right,
second.
but if it's, then I think working with the Friends for the budget is fine. If it's for the senior center, if it's just young senior programming, that's okay. As well, the senior center can probably kick in for that. I also just don't want to set a precedent that now we're suddenly evening programming, because
Mm,
No, I think
that's
that,
not sustainable.
I think
for
that the
me.
Friends would be a more
Okay.
appropriate funding mechanism.
Now, can someone explain to me what the Friends are?
It
What
is
the-
I'm sorry, Katie, did you want to?
No, it's there with, well, again, or did you want?
Yeah, it's a 501c3 that Katie and, well, especially Carolyn McCreary and Pat Lynch, and some other folks in town have recently created, and
Okay.
Mary Markham, who is on this board, in an effort to create a separate nonprofit potential funding mechanism for services distinct from the town budget. They would also be in a position to advocate for fundraising appeals to private entities as we move forward with the building. It was important that we, the town, or the people in the town, have an entity that was separate from the town budget and not under the control of town management, which is what a 501c3 would accomplish.
Right.
With a separate board and separate funding priorities and separate ability to raise money. I attended the last Friends meeting. There are some ethical kind of legal issues with board members of this board sitting on cannot be on, so you can't be wearing more than one hat at a time.
Right.
But for now, we're kind of piecing the 501c3 together using some of the same people, let's say, that
Yeah.
are doing the building committee work and doing this work.
yeah,
But
So the funding for the new center would be through the town, or would it
yes,
in
Yeah.
concert with private donors or separate?
Yes, so the idea is that it would be funded largely by the taxpayer through a bond. And then the goal is to reduce the amount of the bond by having, grants, capital, town capital funds,
Gives,
private donations, gifts, things like that. And so they're just getting off the ground right now. But this would be a great event for them to,
mhm,
Support, yeah.
recruit new members.
It would be.
So who wants to reach out to the friends to see
I will.
if they want to? Okay.
And the request would be again for appetizers for 30, let's say. I
I
think,
think 30 is probably a reasonable.
Yeah, that's,
number.
You've
It's
been
probably-
there about that, haven't you?
Yeah.
For 20 or
We
30?
had 22 or 23 this past Saturday.
Yep.
We had closer to 40 at the first public input session. But I do think if, when we talk to them, I think it's important to figure out, do they want to do something at a restaurant that's gonna involve spending money, or do they want to do a potluck
Who's
here?
this?
So,
Oh,
Okay, so Dennis, you'll reach out. Where are you?
could I ask a question, Katie, would the center be willing to stay open
yeah, I can come in.
if we did it,
I like
if
to-
Yes.
we did it for 5:30?
yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
I'll let you know tomorrow.
so the evaluation process.
Do you want me to call you back after you've had a chance to call them?
Yeah.
All right. When do you want me to call you back?
You can tell tomorrow morning.
What did you think of the evaluation process?
So if you could let her, that would be better for her schedule.
I'll let you know today.
Do you have her email?
So I call her up. I don't usually, I can find some,
Okay. Do you want me to call you back in a little bit?
yeah, I'll be back in a little bit. Bye-bye.
I'll call you back. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Okay, so. Alrighty,
Okay,
Sorry about
oh,
that.
that's okay.
I get all these doctor's appointments.
yeah, don't we all?
Yeah, I was gonna say, they
Two
they
minutes.
creep up on you.
So the evaluation process. Anybody look at it?
No.
I did.
I did.
What do you think?
You know, in thinking about it in part and doing some of the minutes from last
Mhm.
month's meeting and listening to what Cheryl had mentioned. Could we talk, it's unclear to me why we want to do this now, that is, do we want to wait until we have a decision one way or the other on the building and then have a clearer idea of what we're trying to do? And part of this is from just my personal, I'm feeling a little torn between wearing different hats for different purposes
Yeah.
within the town and I'm not sure that I have the mind space to kind of give this the diligence that it deserves. That being said, I think some sort of evaluation process to be accomplished, to do on services currently available from the senior center and how we would improve those or recommend that they be adjusted, et cetera, I think is a worthwhile task. I'm not sure that now is the time to start on that task as opposed to waiting until you have a clear idea of where we are with the
Well,
building process.
I don't think it matters if we're in the old or the new. I think evaluation is always good. To know what you can improve or what you're doing right.
Okay, so you would like to do the evaluation now?
I think yes, I mean, I just think no matter what you're doing, there's always a time to look at what you're doing, how you're doing it, what you can change, what you can't change, what you can. It doesn't matter if you're in what you call your space or I mean, when I was in school and we had to do a reaccreditation, my classroom was closed because it was full of mold and mildew. So was I in my classroom? No. Did I have everything I needed? No. But I still had to go through the reaccreditation. While they were putting in the new HVAC system. Because the 5 years was up. And I think heading into a new senior center, hopefully. It gives us, yeah, no, but it gives us a goal or what we. And some of this, we don't have any choice on. I mean, it's, what was the one that, Katie, that we looked at? Facility.
Right.
We can't change the facility here. We can't change. There are things we can't change.
Cheryl, go ahead and talk whenever you want to.
Yeah.
I don't think the hand raising.
Yeah, I can't.
It's a small group.
I
Just go
forget
ahead
to.
and-
Now I
yeah,
gotta figure out how to get the hand down. I just wanted,
Yeah.
I did read it from cover to cover, and
Yeah.
the scope and the depth of that particular evaluation. I'll give you this, evaluations are useful, they can be helpful. And I gather that the director of the senior center, Katie, you do a yearly report, which may address some issues that you see. Your input is going to be the most valuable because you're there, you know the budget, you know the people, you know the players. I would feel woefully inadequate to complete an assessment of this depth and scope to the point where I go back to my original question, would this be an opportunity to hire an outside consulting firm to come in? Because it needs to be unbiased. And, you know, it's so detailed. It's a wonderful tool. It was, I don't know who found that instrument, but it certainly covered everything from top to bottom. However, this committee, this particular board, I don't feel capable of participating in that. I would endorse hiring a consulting group from, you know, that does somebody that inspects and is savvy about senior centers and what, you know, what's good for a community our size and budget and the number of clients that we serve, because that particular instrument looked like it covered like inner city, you know, places like maybe Lowell, Springfield, Fitchburg, you know, those kinds of, just my opinion.
Usually things are done from the inside and then you have somebody from the outside that would come in.
Mhm.
Because you always have an internal.
Well, we would be included, I would think, the
Well,
input
they would
from,
talk to you at the, and,
So this is set up to be a self-assessment,
right.
right? And it has a committee, I think on introduction page
Mhm.
is a committee. So, you know, my goal in bringing this instrument is, you know, this is the national accreditation standard. Is whether it's used in this format or some diluted or partial format, is that this COA board be able to have the tools and references that they need in order to provide the kind of advisory guidance to me and my staff. And so this gives what the standards are. So if people aren't feeling like there's enough manpower or knowledge, you know, maybe an alternate idea is to take each one of these standards and have a discussion about them and see, like, rather than a formal write-up or something of, but everything that's in here, as COA board members, you should know.
Mhm.
Like, and Cheryl, I know you're new and everything, but like, there are answers to those, and for you guys to be advising, you should know the answers to
Right.
those. So maybe we could use this as a tool. Again, if there's not enough bandwidth or time or expertise to complete it as it is, maybe we can use this to figure out what does the COA board need to learn more about in order to be effective advisors.
And if, so if we go through that process, perhaps a little less formal than, as you have pointed out. As the senior center director, because obviously you know everything there is to know about the current operation of the senior center, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What would you do with that information from or recommendations from the Council on Aging board?
Mhm.
What would you do with those recommendations that you're not able to do now? Or in what way would those recommendations help you in that process that,
Question.
would make it easier for you?
Right, so again, it's about an advisory capacity. So
Yeah.
what are the things that, like, it's very clear to me that getting a second van and a second driver is important from an advisory perspective,
Yeah.
That's
right?
huge.
Like, that's one that between just blanketly, we need it in terms of transportation capacity and controversy over the sign-up procedures. Both of those come together for me to know that that's a priority, right? I have my own priorities, my own operational priorities or whatever, right? And we're gonna have a listening session with the senior center users later this month. So, but you guys may have priorities. You may have things that you want to, so that's the idea, is that if I don't know what direction that you guys would like to, because that's your job as an advisory board, is to know how we work and to help set goals and all those things.
So, and if our recommendations or advice or set of priorities run contrary to yours,
Mhm.
what would you do with that information?
What would I do with that information? And I think it would depend on the situation, right? So,
But you would be open to changing your policies, procedures, operations,
absolutely.
given feedback from the COA board that says, instead of doing X, you should be doing Y.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
If we said we wanted the senior center open, for example, this is in no way valid. We wanted the senior center open 7 days a week. So that
Right.
would be an example of how this board might offer, information or feedback that's.
Great, that's a great example. So let's follow that one through. So let's say as a result of looking at one of these standards in here, I don't remember which one it is, but it talks about having a variety of hours, including evenings and the occasional weekend, right? So you guys decide that expanded hours into the evenings and weekends is something that you as an advisory board think is something that I should focus on. Then that allows me to say, at the request of my COA board.
Hopefully request and not bequest,
Yes.
but.
At the request of my COA board, I need to really be working on this, which includes how do I then make sure that that's a priority going into the next budget season to
Budget.
request staff for that? How do you guys then turn around and advocate at town meeting or to town hall for more things, right? So that's how that's how I see that playing out, is going through not just I think we should, going through a guided process, informally or formally, because, I want a bigger building. I think we should have a bigger building. That doesn't make it happen, right? So, but if we go through some sort of process that you guys arrive at what you think my top 3 goals should be for the next calendar year or fiscal year, And then I put that into motion operationally, and then you guys help advocate for that. That's kind of how I'm seeing this play
No,
out.
that makes sense. It also,
That makes sense.
as a political matter, provides you leverage to go before the select board and the town manager's office
Right,
and say, this isn't coming from me, or it's not coming from me alone, but rather
right.
I am being asked to do this by X, Y, and Z.
And you guys are residents. You are the residents of
Yes,
this
We
town. Town,
taxpayers, yeah.
appointed board that are asking for
Yeah.
this.
Yep.
And we would ask for it independent
Right,
of you.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
and Mary has said she would do the recording.
Okay.
okay. So we're in the ruffling feathers business now.
Yeah.
We are. No, she had
Certainly
said
ruffling
she
feathers.
was in favor, she wanted to do it and she would be
No,
happy
no, I wasn't.
to do the recording of it.
Okay,
But I do think, you know, and without opening up the police and fire discussion, there are certain town departments that, you know, are, people hear what they say. And there are other departments that need more advocacy, right? And so this, I think, is an opportunity to take for those process thinkers out there, and I'm one of them admittedly, to take a process like an evaluation to say, we did this to come to this goal, therefore that goal, that objective, that point is objectively valid, and therefore that's how we go forward. Does that make sense?
yeah, no, I understand.
It's formalizing something rather than
Yes.
making it
I
informal.
understand.
Well, I think you have to start someplace to
Yeah.
know where you want to. So,
Could I make a suggestion? That tool, that very detailed, very thorough tool that you shared with us, could we break it down by section for
oh, we were going to. we're going to change.
each meeting so that we can maybe do a needs test and do a survey of consumers to see how it relates to that, if it's appropriate for that section, like,
But we were going to do it in sections at meetings. Okay, it was not going to be individually on your own.
because phew, that's a lot of work. It's, yeah.
It would be done during our meetings,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, but I don't see any need to complicate it or make it
Mm-mm.
more work.
Right.
Mm-mm. It's not meant to be,
Right. So, like, for example, you know, even just looking at standard one in that section.
I was looking-
So,
Yeah.
you know, do we have a mission statement? Yes. Is it consistent with the NCOA definition philosophy? I don't know, I'd have to go back and reread that. But was it developed by participants, paid and unpaid staff and community representatives? No,
no,
it was
it
not.
wasn't. You
It was not.
you
No.
did it.
So we can take that and go, is that a priority? Or is that something that we don't think is important? It's there, and
Right,
like my thought would be, well, okay, it doesn't meet that definition, but do we want to go back and redo that? Maybe we do.
At least we have one.
Right, so, and then, you know, is it physically visible in the senior center and on publications? Yes,
Yes.
yes, it is, right?
Mhm.
Is it reviewed every 3 to 5 years? Well, I've been here for 3 years, and we reviewed it once, so yes, yes, it is. Is it used as a test for new project or activities?
no,
No. So is that something that you could, I'm just using really minutia kind of examples.
Mhm.
So you guys could say, all right, let's write down on the list of things, well, we kind of want Katie to be using the mission statement as a litmus test for what she's designing. Maybe yes, maybe not, I don't know. But as you get into all of these different standards, this standard one is kind of philosophical,
Mhm.
right? But as you get into the other standards, there may come from it action steps that we want to take, that you guys want me to take.
But see, these we can answer right as we're going. It's not a difficult.
So, well, I guess, so when do we want to start this process?
After we do the young
So sometime in March, let's say.
I'm thinking February, March.
Okay.
And what I would ask is, and this, I guess, is addressed to Katie,
Mm.
what are the, I don't know, top, no, for like, what are the top 3 standards
Right.
of all the 12 or whatever there are here? Do you think would be most instructive for you to hear from us about?
Good
And you know,
question.
you don't have,
But
so,
let me think about that and
Yeah.
I can let you know.
and then we'll start that process.
Okay, so we need to vote, we're doing it. If we're doing it.
I'd like to
Okay,
make a
so-
motion that we simplify and we streamline this evaluation and continue to look at the top 3 priorities as identified.
I don't know if we need to simplify that much though, Cheryl. I think as we get going, the one we don't need to do will be obviously Katie's got to do the fiscal and the asset. She's got to do some of it on her own. The record keeping and reports. There's a lot we can't.
Well, but that's what I foresee this being is what don't you know? And how can I get you that information?
Well, that will be when you bring it to us. You'll have to explain to us.
So,
There's a lot that we don't have that information.
so how about this motion? I move that beginning in March 2025, the COA board will begin evaluating the top 3 standards. We'll begin evaluating this Ayer Senior Center on 3 standards as selected by the Senior Center Director
Like it, yeah.
from the whatever this document is.
I'm gonna revise as you're in that motion. I think you guys should pick the top 3 standards.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Right.
that really, since it's, you know what I'm saying, like, if it's, maybe it's the 3 standards that you know the least about, or maybe it's the 3 standards that you think.
Okay, that's fair.
you tackle. Yeah.
That would be instructive. And can we look at these evals again and come back next month with
Yeah.
each of us selecting 3, and then we can vote on the 3 next month?
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's not a bad, yeah, that's a good idea. All right.
I second. His motion, I
Okay.
second his motion.
Okay. Motion has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
No. Okay, Cheryl, you vote.
I vote yes.
Okay, Dennis,
Yes.
I vote yes.
Bob, yes, me, yes. Okay. Director's report.
Let's see, my report is that I am 2 days behind on everything. So it's almost done.
Only 2 days?
2 days. We've had a lot of problems with my senior center recently. We rely on them for our ride scheduling. And so, I don't have it done because I wasn't able to double check the rides because there's an issue with the rides module going on right now. So I have been spending some time trying to sort out the functionality of the rides module. I would say that overall, staffing is great, plodding along in the same fashion. Obviously not having Brittany here is one less person, but she wasn't like an operational stronghold. So we would love for the town to hire a new social worker. I know that they are in the process of redoing that job description, but we'd love to have someone back again to have an active role. Let's see, what else? The meals program continues to be popular, as is the rides program. We are noticing an uptick in new people coming in, both for programs and for rides. And the van is getting quite full again. Yeah, getting, kind of right to its breaking point. We do need a dispatcher, we need that second person. Thank you to Dennis, since our last meeting, we sent that memo in, the memo that I owed to town hall, requesting the additional driver and van from Mart, so that I was supposed to write the memo that the town manager could turn around and write to
When you
Mart.
sent it along, was I CC'd on that or?
I don't know if I did. I don't know if I did. I may
So
have.
you
but I
haven't
can
heard
forward
back
it to
yet?
you. I have not heard back, but in fairness, that was what, like 2 or 3 weeks ago? And
That's a long time. I mean, I know,
no, it is a long time, but the town manager's office has been without the assistant town manager for the majority of that period of time. So they are not running along at their usual pace. So I'm gonna cut them some slack, but as soon as Carly comes back, we'll inquire about that again. So my hope is that we can get that going fairly quickly. And obviously, as we're coming into budget season, I'm gonna go ahead and put in my budget the benefits package for that second person, under the assumption that it's going to get done.
but we're not anticipating, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're not anticipating that it would only occur after next July 1st. My understanding.
Correct,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna set it up for success.
Yeah.
By making sure it's in my budget for next year. So,
Yeah, I think, yeah.
and then you could use some volunteers for the December 20th Christmas holiday party.
I'll be. Mhm.
And when is it lunchtime?
Lunchtime. Yeah. And we had about 55 people at the Thanksgiving celebration,
Yeah.
so we,
Great.
I capped it at 60 this time, for the holiday party. And, you know, I like to just point out the linkages there, you know, all of the towns that have built a new building in the last 5 to 10 years have indicated that when they open, they have double to triple the number of participants. Just more people come in. And so when I think about the attendance that we're having at special events, and I'm just talking about special events, you know, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Mother's Day, you know, those sorts of things, if we're getting between, you know, 50 and 60, but even let's just call it 50, it's not hard to see how when we're in a new building, a room, the big special event room that seats 115, it's not out of the realm of possibility that we will fill it pretty quickly.
Yeah, and just anecdotally, my observations from the public forums that have been held and the feedback I've gotten in conversation with others, and just seeing what the things that you've put in place here. I am growing increasingly confident that the building's not too big. That is, it is even more clear to me now that the space will be well used and that the programming rooms and the size of the large room, that a large room that can fit 125 to 150 people will in fact be used, you know, once a month, once every 6 weeks, and for the smaller lunches. So I'm increasingly confident that the building is the right choice for the town for now.
Given that I didn't have anything written, are there any questions of me as part of the director's report?
Any traction on this? So on that, I would love to be able to say to town manager, where's the social worker? Where's the hiring process for the social worker? And when's the social worker?
Absolutely.
So before I do that, are you aware of where the hiring process is currently or not? Or?
So the last I heard is that they were gonna revise the job description.
Yeah.
Because that first job description was really broad. And not a good fit for the person they hired.
Yeah.
And so I think they wanted to take the time to decide whether they're looking for a different set of qualifications in order to get that job description done, or whether they're looking to tighten up the job description. So
And are they asking for your input into what that job description ought to be and what kind of person they ought to be looking for?
they have not asked for my input yet, but I don't know that it's because they don't want my input. I think it's because they are not actively working on it yet. So I was part of the committee that created that job description to begin with and did the hiring the first time. So, I mean, I would presume that I would be on it the second time around. I just think that they're, you know, it's not in a high, it's not, I wouldn't say it's not high priority. It's not.
Zoom call.
You okay?
Yeah,
Do you need your walker brought over?
yeah, I gotta do a Zoom call.
Just wait for it. Take care of yourself, Paul.
What's that?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Bobby.
So
So I just think it's not right on the top of their piles, what I need to say right now.
right, so, and in terms of, you know, from my experience in the mental health profession, social workers seem to divide into, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cheryl, either kind of administrative social workers who know how to navigate the system and know how to kind of make referrals, and as opposed to clinical social workers who are more doing mental health and therapy and conflict resolution.
Absolutely. That's
Which
absolutely,
is-
but more clinical is more the clinical end of things, and then the folks that do more case management and advocacy, and they just have, like my boss at Haywood, she has connections with every system and network
So
in the
which-
state,
and
and how
which
she
do
keeps
you
it in her
see-
head. So yeah, but you need a mix of both, I think, in the town. I think somebody that's savvy enough to know, you know, what the person needs and do the outreach. Is that what you had in mind, Katie, when you wrote the job description?
Yeah,
The
so.
blend of the both?
Right, so, I think the idea was to have someone in the role that is fairly experienced in their career, who's worked across a variety of settings, and whether they were, clinical was not a requirement.
Right.
So,
Right, because they would be
Uh,
referring theoretically, people
Right.
needed to know where to go to get it, yeah.
right, so, you know, I think it really comes down to what the town wants that individual to do. And so I don't think the town is really clear and
Mhm.
on that, so, you know,
But we
some things require enough clinical knowledge to appropriately refer, or enough clinical knowledge to get someone to, I don't know, in my social sciences background, we call that like readiness to change. So someone can, I don't see it.
Who was volunteering?
No.
Did you check the other side?
Oh, it's in this bag, it's in this bag. I think it's in the bag.
In the bag?
I think it's right here in your bag, you want it on, it's right here. You want it out?
Yeah.
Is she out there?
Oh, I see.
Doesn't look like it.
Is Patty out there?
No.
I gotta Zoom call, but I got the.
It's really foggy where I live. All of a sudden, I can't see my neighbor's house, so it's really foggy out. Be careful when you guys go home.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm getting it tangled up here.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Do you wanna just wait here until she comes?
Yeah.
Where are you gonna look at?
Over here, plus 3:30.
Okay.
The temperature must be warming up because it's like, I can't even see my neighbor's house. It's so foggy. Fog bank.
So, I mean, I think in order to, and these are just my opinions, so take them for what they're worth. I think, the towns need somebody that has enough exposure, or even if they're not a clinical social worker, that they have enough experience in the field that they can help people along those stages of readiness to change. Not necessarily to be doing the clinical work.
Mhm.
Because where you have just an outreach worker, right? So technically the senior center has just an outreach worker. So their
Right.
sole job is to connect this to that. Now, we're lucky because our outreach worker was a social worker her entire life. She's just not currently a social worker. So she's able to kind of bridge that gap. The town, I think, does ultimately probably need a clinical social worker, even if they are not actively providing direct
Direct clinical.
clinical services. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I
Absolutely.
think that that is the value of the social worker to the senior center and to our population will be part of what they do.
Right.
The other part, and in my mind, perhaps the most prominent, is to the police department and to what extent they can intervene earlier in a process. I know that some towns are trying to coordinate police and mental health in order to kind of.
Talk to Framingham Hollister.
So the town already has what they call a coin,
Mhm.
person who is a social worker who rides along, all of those things. Yep.
All right, so this, all right,
So the social worker augments the coin person, and I forget, I'm sorry, what coin stands for. So they augment it, so it's like, where is that, like I said, immediate follow-up? It's not, the coin person is actively on a call response, whereas, the town social worker is what happens the next
okay.
business morning. But the town social worker was also being used along with the housing rehab program, the rental assistance program, and the emergency assistance program to help navigate folks through all three of those programs. And so that's where that line between clinical social worker and non-clinical social worker gets blurred.
And that was separate from this, their work, what Mary Ellen would do and what the senior center would do.
So
Would it be
In
at all
terms of-
helpful for us to write a letter of support? Advocating for the timely hiring of a replacement? Would that be beneficial with Council on Aging Board stationery? I don't know if we have such a thing, but.
No.
I mean, you can use the town letterhead, you're a town board or
Yeah.
committee, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Would you be willing to do that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, I would.
So,
I can architect it in that we had a discussion about the current open position in the town for a social worker. And, the social work position has a positive impact on the quality of life of the residents of the town of Ayer. And we,
Yeah.
as a committee, would strongly endorse, filling this vacancy, in as timely a manner as possible.
okay, no, all right,
Does
that's
that
very,
sound?
yes.
Does that sound?
Yeah, it does. So all I would add to that is that you give them a date by which they should contact you or us and let us know where they are in the process. That is,
Okay, that
Kind
kind
of.
of holds the feet to the fire. Oh, sure. So why don't
Yeah,
I
yeah,
work
yeah.
on a draft, and as soon as I get my email up, I will CC you guys a copy of the draft for editing and then get it back to me, and I'll be happy. And if I send the final draft to Katie, can you transpose it onto town letterhead for us?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I make a motion that that Cheryl be empowered to draft a letter to the town administration advocating for the expeditious hiring of the social worker in order to more fully meet the needs of the town.
I second. All, Dennis?
I'm in
Aye.
favor. I say aye. Yep.
Yeah.
Do we still have a quorum? Do we still have a quorum?
We do, we have
All right.
three,
Okay.
so we're good to go.
Great.
All right,
Okay, building center.
All right, so since our last meeting, the building committee has gone to the select board, capital planning committee, community preservation committee, and had what day was the one at town hall before or after this meeting?
Before.
Before.
It was before, okay, so then we've had one other public input session planned. One other conducted, and then we have one tomorrow and, actually one tonight, one tomorrow, and one Thursday. So
Wow.
the public input and information sharing is in full swing. The capital planning obviously is underway. The select board, that was an interesting meeting. I think the committee has reached a place where they've completed the feasibility study and are now getting to the broader town business, right? So there was the smaller scale, now we're going to the larger scale. And so I think we're ready to start figuring out with the town leadership how to fund it, the different funding mechanisms to do that. The site due diligence is all coming back in favorable ways. The 21E environmental assessment came back with no issues. The habitat assessment and the precursor to the MIPA review all came back with minimal impact. The borings were completed, good soil. So now we've had the shallow and the deep borings done. The soil is good. Am I forgetting any of the site? The legal parcel is, that work is almost completed. So that's all set.
And wondered about that every time we go by.
Yeah.
I wonder what the ground is like up there.
Yeah, it's beautiful,
Ideal.
sandy
That's
soil,
good.
ideal for building.
Being an engineer, he
Right.
does it, yeah.
Yeah, so everything's moving in the right direction. The tax, what, 2 meetings ago, the assessor presented and the select board voted on the new tax rates for 2025. And so that's the next step, is to revise the estimate with the new tax numbers. And then to start working with capital planning on where the funds can come for. Right, so, because the goal has always been that, you know, at the current cost of 16.6, that it would never be a borrow for 16.6, that it would be some combination of borrowing town funds and grants and then personal and business donations, that there was always a 4 pieces to the puzzle of funding. So I think that's what's up next. Did I miss
No, I think
anything?
that's, I mean, that's a great summary. The question, I mean, the prominent question now is the scheduling, potential scheduling of a special town meeting for the purpose of voting on these articles. And the crafting of the articles, depending on where the money's coming from and how that's gonna need to be moved. So that's kind of how we get the meeting scheduled, or at what town meeting we are able to have the warrant articles on the warrant, is the large question looming over our work now. I believe that when the building committee was charged to do what it needed to do, we have met that charge. That is, we did what the select board asked us to do based on the guidance from the select board and the town administration. It is now time to take the next steps to move the process forward. And we're gonna need the select board and the other town committees to, and by that, most prominently, the finance committee and the capital planning committee.
Right.
But also community preservation, who has shown their good support for it, the planning board, which I believe has or will be soon showing support for it. So that's where we are.
So it's coming along.
It is.
Yeah. So exciting stuff.
Are people in any way concerned about cost overruns, given the fact
Yes.
that if the new administration does what it's threatening to do with tariffs, this is what brought Haywood Hospital down. Why they went into Chapter 11, because they were a third of the way through with construction of the new surgical suite, and cost overruns because of tariffs in the last administration. The budget doubled, and it's still empty. They have not finished there. So it's an empty third of the way constructed building. They're now out of Chapter 11, thankfully, but I worry because when they went in, they had a firm budget and they had, construction had begun. Who knows what lumber and building costs are going to be.
I mean, my sense of that is, to your initial question, yes, there are concerns of cost overruns or just spending too much money, or that the 16.6 is too large a number.
Yeah.
I do not think that those concerns are based in who is sitting in the White House or will be sitting in the White House. Those concerns are, I think, more local and historical than they are based on the macroeconomic environment, which may exist in August when the bidding goes out. But, yes, I think that there is some skepticism as to whether or not a public entity can build a structure on time and on budget.
Okay.
And whether or not we, the building committee, can pull that off. I mean, some people are saying we're not convinced of it. And I think that what Katie has been doing, and we're asking the select board and finance committee and capital planning committee to do, is to show the world that we have done our due diligence, we have examined the numbers, that we are providing good faith guidance as to what this will cost. And we'll go from there. But
and we have to start somewhere, but it just seems like, the perfect storm of economic indicators. And part of it is, recently I've been through I've seen the worst that can happen,
Yeah, the architect did mention that if the economy goes south and everything goes belly up, all the costs are going to come down, and then it will be more affordable.
Right.
And
then we have to look at present value. If we do it now, as opposed to 5 years from now, it's present value.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always more expensive to wait. I'm not sure I can think of a municipal building project or any project, quite frankly, that just by waiting has gotten cheaper. So,
exactly. Okay, so greater minds than mine have thought of this. What?
Well, I mean, it's a big and complex set of things. So, yeah, I from my perspective, I have to keep moving forward with it. I can't not advocate for a building that I know that we need based on what could or could not happen. Like, no one could have anticipated COVID or what that would do to lumber costs, for example. Some things are just out of our control. So.
And just to let you know, we are, as the budget currently now stands, we are not relying on any hoped for federal funds, which may or may not be available in the future.
Okay,
right.
Good. I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, that is not in the planning. Any federal funds that we may have access to, I think the town has already acquired or has the legal right to acquire. And all the other funds would be for the town funds or various capital funds that are set aside.
Well, I mean, CDBG funds are federal.
Right, but that's we already have access. That is, we're not relying on them to have future. We would have access to that money now.
So it's 1.3 million every 2 years. So we have access to that money right now for this cycle, right? But that is what it's supposed to be.
And ballpark estimate, did you say 16 million to construct this building?
0.6.
16.6.
16.6. Okay.
Okay. Okay, approval of minutes.
I gave you again, sorry for those being late, if folks want to take a look at them. Those are October and November. September got out of sequence for me.
Okay. Okay, I looked at October. Hmm.
I can't vote because I haven't seen them because I can't get into my email, so I'll
Then
trust.
we stuck them today because we don't have the hearing.
Okay.
Well, that's probably better anyway, given that we don't,
Yeah,
that we haven't really had a time.
Yeah.
Can you
But I
send
will
these
review them.
electronically?
I did.
Oh, did you? Okay.
yeah,
All right,
they're
cool.
on
check your
there.
email.
I just checked.
Yeah.
Okay,
check your
so
email,
we'll
should be there.
delay that until
Okay.
January.
If I ever
So-
get into my Ayer email account.
When you can't, you've got to just call Max.
I will call him. I left a couple of messages. I'll continue.
Okay. Public input.
Public input?
Mhm.
We've got to get that senior center center. Rolling. We've got to get it, the building. I need that building. I mean, I come here, if Katie would let me, I'd come here 24/7. If she would let me. I'm here every day. I live right here. My apartment's here. I get water the Cold War. I come here, I socialize with people. I have a good time. Katie always has activity here. The staff members are great. Mary Ellen is great. You can always come to Mary Ellen and say, I've got this big problem. And she's always able to solve it. Denise is great. Stan is wonderful. Stan will take you anywhere that you need to go. Of a drop of a moment's notice. He will take you. He's great. Katie's wonderful. She's doing great with the staff and even with us, although I'm sure we drive her crazy. We'll go off, make the problems and a little get together and stuff. But we really do need the senior citizen, new building. We need it.
So, and thanks for that. And can I ask you, given that you live here, do you feel comfortable in thinking that with the work that Katie and Sam can do, that you're gonna be able to get from here to the senior center and back reasonably comfortably? That is, you're gonna be able to have access. Okay,
As long as Sam can drive me there, because I don't drive anymore.
right.
I don't have a car. I mean, I can drive, I
Yeah,
just don't have a car.
Yeah.
As long as Sam can get me to the senior, to the center, I'll be there.
okay. All right, that's good to know.
And that's where we're going to need the more bus
Mhm.
Yes,
service,
that's good.
because if you're doing shopping and you're doing doctor's appointments and
Right.
people here
Yeah.
need to get up to the new,
Agreed. Yep.
Yeah.
and not only here, it's Pleasant Street.
Right. I would love to see in an ideal world, 2 vans,
Mhm.
one that's running a very fixed route
Mm-hmm.
through town that is swinging through both Pond Street and Pleasant Street, that's hitting all of the major stops, including the senior center
Yeah.
along the
Shop
way.
and save.
Yeah, Shop and
But-
Save, the bank, town hall.
Could
Yeah.
we not just get a regular 8-passenger van that anybody could drive?
So it's not about the van size.
Mm-hmm.
It's about paying the driver and maintaining the vehicle. So, and this is deviating from
Right.
public input a little bit, but, so as it currently stands, MART is our regional transit authority. And so they own the van. We insure it. We pay for the insurance cost, but they own the vehicle and they pay the driver's salary. The only thing that the town pays of anything for the COA's transportation program is the paid time off for the driver, because that part of a benefits package, MART doesn't pay. MART pays for insurance and,
Mm-hmm.
like health insurance and those sorts of things as well. So it's just paid time off
Mhm.
that they don't cover. And so we can get an 8-passenger van. We can even get a non-handicap accessible 8-passenger van. I don't know why we would, but we could,
Right.
from Mars. But in order to continue to have MART basically fund the program, which just comes through federal dollars, then it has to be done through them, right? So if we go out and buy an 8-passenger van, then we are on the hook for the payments for that vehicle,
Right,
the maintenance of that vehicle, because we don't pay the
Yes.
maintenance either.
right.
And
We're
they
also-
depreciate like crazy the minute you
Yes.
drive it off the lot, so, yeah.
And then we also have to pay that driver, and we're not doing any of that right now. So it really behooves us to go
Right.
through MART. Because MART doesn't limit us on where we can go.
Yeah.
You know, with the van, they don't care. The only thing we can't do is we can't gas up out of state.
They don't
So-
care how many miles. It's not like a lease.
No,
Right,
they don't care.
no.
No, I mean, we do report back how many miles, but they don't
Right,
care how
right.
many miles we
Mhm,
put on it.
Mhm.
And they know exactly where we go because I turn in the reports every month.
mhm,
So, I do think that's the most advantageous
mhm.
avenue for expanding the service.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but yeah, you're right, it doesn't necessarily have to be another 12-passenger van, and you don't need a CDL to drive that. It's only for, I think, 22 passengers. No, it might be 14. It might be 14. That might be the reason why this is 12.
Yeah.
This is the largest van underneath,
Hmm,
so it might be a 14-passenger van that requires the CDL.
hmm. Interesting. So anybody on this? Okay.
Any more public?
I just want to say we had family feud today, and it was
It
wonderful.
was fun.
And I'm looking forward to doing it again.
He
And
should-
Jeff has all kinds of things that he does. You know, all different games that you see on TV, he does. Because we saw the list and he was looking for
Yeah.
another concentration game. And so it would be nice if we could have him maybe once a month or every other month or something to come.
Yeah.
Because there was only 7 people that showed up, but by having lunch and the way he set it up,
Right,
it worked out
yep,
that people stayed. You know, and then people did have appointments and did have things, so they had to leave, but
right,
they got to the beginning of it, so they knew what fun it was.
absolutely.
And Katie had a wonderful meeting on Saturday, plus the fact that, it's a busy month. There's a lot going on, and she's been stressed out with all the things that, like today, with the meetings and this and that and so forth and so on. So
Stressed out? No.
she did.
I'm just.
You mean that general easygoing devil may care Katie wasn't around?
No.
Take it as it comes. That Katie didn't show.
And I looked, we were talking about Brittany, and when Brittany first started, if I remember correctly, all of a sudden it was thrown in that we were getting the whatever you want to call it, you know, the people congregants and working.
Oh, yeah, at the hotel, the
Oh, the internet?
Right, yeah, and then she walked right into that.
Yeah.
That was her
Right,
first,
right.
and it was really,
Right.
really a lot. She did a good job of it,
Mhm.
you know, it's too bad but she's close enough, that's what counts.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Any other public input?
Any more? Good.
Well,
Okay, I make a motion that the meeting be adjourned at
because the lights are on.
I second the motion.
Meeting adjourned at 3:45.